And welcome to Wise Guys. These guys know sports on this Tuesday, September the 28th. We're here live on the Worldwide Sports Network. Everybody remember going follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. You live here on the Worldwide Sports Network with your boy Trey Larkins talking all the latest in sports news. But right now, I'm going to give y'all an NFL recap of week 3. Got an action jam-packed show. Also, I'm going to talk about the ESPN rankings that came out about the top 10 players right now in the NBA. Also, later on the show, I'm going to talk about Justin Fields' disastrous first start for the Chicago Bears as they got beat down by the Cleveland Browns 26-6 Sunday afternoon in Cleveland. Also, later on the show, I'm going to talk about the Rams beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that matchup, primetime matchup in the NFC as well. But we have to begin in the NFL, and we're going to begin in San Francisco, in the Bay, as the Green Bay Packers beat the San Francisco 49ers 30-28. Go, Pack, go. The Packers got the dub over the 49ers. Aaron Rodgers improves to 6-6 overall in his career against the San Francisco 49ers, including the playoffs. And so for the game, Aaron Rodgers, he led the Packers on a game-winning field goal, drive that took place with 37 seconds left. For the night, Aaron Rodgers went 23 of 33, threw for 261 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Devontae Adams had an outstanding game. He had 12 receptions, 132 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. And for the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo went 25 of 40, threw for 257 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So, coming into the game, Packers sitting at 1-1 on the season, only honestly playing one half of great football, and that was against the Detroit Lions in the second half in week 2 at Lambeau Field. So the question here is, what statement did Rodgers and the Packers make? What statement did the Packers make in this game? So first and foremost, when it comes to the primetime matchup between the Packers and the 49ers, I have to admit, as a Packers fan, I was so happy to see my Packers beat the 49ers Sunday night. I felt like we won the NFC Championship game and got back to the Super Bowl. That's how great of a win it was for the Packers. Because as a Packers fan, the 49ers, they have terrorized Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers for many years, including multiple times in the playoffs. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. If it wasn't for the San Francisco 49ers, I believe Aaron Rodgers would be back in the Super Bowl and would have had an opportunity to win his second Super Bowl in his career. But the 49ers, they have had Aaron Rodgers' number. Y'all remember in 2012, the 49ers beat the Packers in the playoffs. I think it was the divisional round of the playoffs. That's when Colin Kaepernick was the quarterback of the 49ers. He had over 181 rushing yards. Clay Matthews and Charles Woodson, as great as they were, they had no answers for Colin Kaepernick that night. He completely dominated the game. And then the following year, Aaron Rodgers tore up his collarbone, but he returned back in week 17 against the Bears, and we beat the Bears, got into the playoffs, wild card game at Lambeau Field, and Colin Kaepernick and the 49ers beat the Packers again. Score was 23-20. They won on a late field goal, winning the game. And so they have had the Packers number in the playoffs. And y'all remember 2 years ago, there were 2 matchups against the 49ers where the Packers got completely outmatched and dominated in the regular season, and they lost 37-8 to the 49ers. And then in the 2019 NFC Championship game, the Packers got completely dominated by the 49ers again. They lost 37-20 in that game. So, there's been multiple times where the 49ers have dominated their matchup going up against the Green Bay Packers. And I got a lot of 49er fans I want to call out on the show tonight. Mike Drop, my man Robert Anthony on Facebook. He's my guy. He know who he is. We beat y'all 49ers on Sunday night. Christian Bradley, he's my man as well. Brian Snow, shout out to Brian Snow, Snowman in the Morning. Go and follow that on all social media platforms. He's a 49er fan. Preston Watson, that's my guy I grew up with the high school with. He a diehard 49er fan. My Uncle James, he know who he is. It's so many 49er fans. Romy Mills on Facebook, that's my cousin. Love you to death. But it's so many 49er fans that I had to get on here and call out on the Wise Guys Sports Show tonight. I had to call y'all out tonight because I am going to celebrate this Packers victory over the 49ers. It felt good. But not only did it feel good to beat the 49ers, as a Packers fan, I was impressed at how the Packers won Sunday night in Santa Clara. They were going up against one of the most physical teams in the NFL. And the Packers went toe-to-toe with the 49ers, and they were the more physical team Sunday night in Santa Clara. As a Packers fan, over the last few years, we have been one of the best teams in the NFL. Went to back-to-back NFC championship games the last 2 years. The last 2 years, they are 26-6 in the Matt LaFleur era. But the Packers always win games like by finesse. It's never really been, a physical formula of winning games, a physical brand of football. It's always been a finesse brand of football when the Packers have won games over the last 2 years. So for the Packers to go toe-to-toe in the octagon with the San Francisco 49ers, one of the most physical teams in the NFL, was impressive for me. And so I feel like that when you look at the way the Packers won, I thought we deserved to win the game. That's why after Jimmy Garoppolo led the 49ers on a late game drive that gave the 49ers the lead late in the fourth quarter, I was sitting there stunned. I was stunned, but I knew that we had 37 seconds left on the clock, and we have Aaron Rodgers, who I'm going to get to in a bit. But I just felt like the win had more value even beyond the scoreboard. It wasn't the fact that the Packers won. It was how the Packers won. And so, again, going up against some of these physical teams in the NFC, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like the San Francisco 49ers, like the LA Rams, as a Packers fan, it was nice to see the Packers win in a dominant way, the way they did Sunday. It was a different brand of football that they played, okay? And so also, when I look at this game, before I even get to Aaron Rodgers, the 5 offensive linemen for the Green Bay Packers in this game, I got to give a big shout out to all 5 of them. Josh Neisman, left tackle. Left guard, John Runyon. Center, Josh Myers. Right guard, Royce Newman. And right tackle, Billy Turner. Going up against one of the best front sevens in the NFL and one of the best pass rushers in the NFL in Nick Bosa. The Packers offensive line held their own. They held their own. And they limited the 49ers to only 1 sack. 1 sack on the night. This is without Elton Jenkins, one of the best linemen on the Packers team. Also, David Bakhtiari. He's one of the best tackles in pro football. Neither one of them played in this game, and the Packers O-line held up strong against one of the best front sevens in the NFL. I was very impressed. So I got to give a lot of credit to the Packers offensive line, even before I get to Aaron Rodgers. So again, I love the way we were able to win this game Sunday. Now, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, this is to all the Aaron Rodgers haters out there. That wasn't too bad of a performance for a guy who's not committed. Going 23 of 33, 261 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Did y'all see the 12-yard strike that he threw to MVS at the beginning of the fourth quarter? Did y'all see that? Did y'all see the 25-yard strike that he threw to Devontae Adams on the game-winning drive right over the outstretched arms of Fred Warner. Did y'all see that? Did y'all see that? Did y'all see the great 17-yard pass that he threw to Devontae Adams? You know, that put Mason Crosby in field goal range to hit the game-winning field goal. Did y'all see how great Aaron Rodgers, you know, the touch that he had on the passes that he threw throughout the course of the game? And then on the opening drive, the drive that I think set the tone for the entire game, the pass that he threw to Alan Lazard of the right sideline, Aaron Rodgers was absolutely sensational. And he showed why, in my mind, he is still the best quarterback in the NFL. He is a reigning NFL MVP for a reason. And so he was dropping dimes all over the field. And after the week 1 loss to the New Orleans Saints, we heard critics talk about how Aaron Rodgers isn't committed. He's not, committed to the Packers winning games this year. He's just going out there and not caring about the results of the Packers football games. But Aaron Rodgers was engaged Sunday night, and he was very, very emotional on the sideline. You saw in the second quarter, early in the second quarter, when the Packers, they were up, I believe we were up 10-0 at that point. It might have been 3. It might have been 3-0. I can't exactly remember the score at that moment in the game. But it was a 4th down play. And Josh Myers, the center, he snapped the ball early, pre-snap, and it almost hit Randall Cobb and completely messed up the play. But it completely messed up the play anyway because the Packers, couldn't get into a rhythm on that play, and they couldn't get into the formation they were trying to get into. But Aaron Rodgers chewed out Josh Myers. He chewed him out. So you could tell that Aaron was all in this game. Did y'all see his reaction after Mason Crosby hit the game-winning field goal? My quarterback was engaged, and I love the fact that he showed leadership and basically was all in this game. He was all in. He was all in. So much so for a guy who's not committed to the Green Bay Packers organization. He was absolutely sensational, and so he showed why he's still the best quarterback in the NFL. So I was very impressed with the Packers overall in this game. And so many people believe the 49ers are going to dominate because we saw in week 1, the Packers get completely blown off the field against the New Orleans Saints, 38-3. And then we saw in week 2, Jared Goff looked like an elite quarterback in the first half at Lambeau Field. The Lions were beating the Packers 17-14 at the half in week 2. So the Packers only had played one great half of football, and that's when they outscored the Lions 21-0 in the second half, in that game. So they only had played one great half of football, but they were absolutely sensational in this game. They won time of possession in this game. They were 5-11 on third downs. They had 21 first downs for the game. So I was impressed at how the Packers played in this game. And then they got 4 sacks defensively. They hit Jimmy Garoppolo 10 times, but they sacked him 4 times. Kenny Clark, he played great in the trenches for the Packers. He played great. And this is all without Zadarius Smith. Zadarius Smith, he'll be back week 5 against the Bengals. So I love the fact that the Packers defensively, they were very, very impressive in this game. And I thought in the trenches where we won the game. That's how I feel. And then Jair Alexander, the great interception that he had on Jimmy G was outstanding. Outstanding, because on that play, he was supposed to have 1/3 of the field, and he came all the way across the field and got that interception. And they were going for George Kittle on that play. Alexander made a hell of a play and got the interception for the Packers. So again, that was the first time in about 3 years where I felt like the Packers went toe-to-toe in the octagon with a very, very physical team. Very, very impressive. Now, defensively, although they registered 4 sacks, they still got to get better defensively. Still got to get better because they're ranked 22nd in the NFL with total sacks on the season. And also on third down, they're ranked 30th. So they're not getting off the field on third down. So they have to improve on that. But I still feel like we have the pieces to at least be a decent defensive team. Darnell Savage, on the back end. Still got Amos at safety. Again, Jared Alexander is one of the best lockdown corners we have in the NFL. I was also impressed with, Eric Stokes, the rookie out of Georgia. He got a lot of playing time in this game because Kevin King was out with an illness. But I like what I saw from Eric Stokes. They called a bogus pass interference on Stokes in the fourth quarter. That was not pass interference. And that's another thing. In this game, the officiating was awful. It was awful. I mean, there was a lot of PI calls that were very, very questionable. But overall, defensively, I like the fact that the Packers were able to apply pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo. But again, defensively, if we want to be true contenders in the NFC, they still got to get better. Still got to get better. We know Aaron Rodgers is going to have the offense playing at an elite level. We know they're going to be playing at an elite level for sure, but we still got to perform defensively and get timely stops. I don't expect the Packers to be a shutdown defense, but they have to get timely stops and have more opportunities for Aaron Rodgers to put points up on the board. But again, great win for the Packers, improving to 2-1 on the season. So the next 3 games for the Packers, they got the Steelers at Lambeau this week. Then they travel here to Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow at Paul Brown Stadium. I'll be there. I can't wait for that game. And then they got the Bears. I think the Packers can go 3-0 on these next 3 games. We know the Steelers right now, sitting at 1-2. They are playing awful football. They are not a good football team. Ben Roethlisberger needs to retire immediately because he's not very good. He's not very good, but they don't have any options, behind Ben that are any better. Dwayne Haskins, he hasn't proven anything yet. Also, Mason Rudolph, he's inconsistent. He's not very good. So Roethlisberger is the only option right now that the Steelers have. I think the Packers will beat the Steelers, although I think that game will be competitive on Sunday at Lambeau Field. I know the Steelers will show up. They have a championship pedigree, and they are a team that's led by Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season at any point in his career. But I think the Packers will prevail in that game. Tough game against Cincinnati because the Bengals are playing well so far this season. But we'll see what they got against Aaron Rodgers. But I think the Packers can beat the Steelers, Bengals, and the Bears and go 3-0 over the next 3 weeks and improve to 5-1 heading into week 6. And in the NFC North, we're going to win the division. NFC North is not even up for debate on who's going to win the division. Minnesota, they're inconsistent. The Bears, they can't get right at quarterback, and the offensive line is awful. I'll talk about them later on in the show. And we know Detroit, they aren't going anywhere. They're 0-3 on the season, but they have been very competitive in games. But the Packers will win the NFC North. Everybody remember going to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H, also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Let's transition to the AFC, as we had an AFC West battle between the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers. The LA Chargers beat the Chiefs 30-24. Chiefs fall to 1-2 on the season. They are last in the AFC West right now. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert played outstanding. He went 26 of 38, threw for 281 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Mike Williams, he had a great game, 7 receptions, 122 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. And for the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes went 27 of 44, threw for 260 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So, question here is, was the outcome more about the Chiefs or the Chargers? And so when you look at this game, I like the LA Chargers, and I picked the LA Chargers to make the playoffs in the AFC as a wild card. I said before the season that I believe the Kansas City Chiefs will win the AFC West, but I believe the LA Chargers would have an opportunity to make the playoffs, as a wild card team. They have a franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert, who you can build your franchise around and possibly win a Super Bowl with one day. Last year, Justin Herbert, he had 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He played absolutely sensational in his rookie season. And, coming into the season last year, we talked about Tua out of Alabama. We talked about Burrow out of LSU. We talked about so many quarterbacks, before we even discussed Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert played great last year. He's big time. And in this week 3 win over the Kansas City Chiefs, make no mistake about it, Justin Herbert outplayed Patrick Mahomes. And he made plays in key moments for the Chargers. And he made plays that Patrick Mahomes did not make in this game. Okay. And don't forget in the offseason, y'all remember, I think it was a reporter that was talking to Patrick Mahomes. And he talked about Justin Herbert to Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes, his remark about Justin Herbert was, I'll believe it when I see it. So Mahomes threw some shots at Herbert, and Herbert outperformed Mahomes in Kansas City Sunday afternoon. I was very, very impressed. But with all that being said, this game still was more about the Chiefs more so than the Chargers. And let me explain why. The Chiefs have the second worst defense in the NFL. Their defense is awful. They've only had 4 sacks in 3 games. They're ranked 31st against the run. They're ranked 31st in points allowed. They're ranked 30th in yards allowed. They've given up 29, 36, and 30 total points in 3 games. And every single time a team has gotten into the red zone against the Chiefs defense this season, they've scored except one time. There's only been one time that the Chiefs defense, when they've had opposing teams get in the red zone, it's only been one time in 3 games where they've gotten a stop and held a team to a field goal. Only one time. They have been completely awful. And defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, he has some work to do. He got some work to do because when you look at their defense, like if you were drafting defensive players and you're looking at their team defensively, I like Chris Jones, but since they've moved him to to the end as a defensive end rusher, he hasn't been very effective. They might as well move him back at defensive tackle because as a defensive end, he hasn't been very effective. And you look at their defensive personnel, the only player that I would say that is legit on their defense is Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu, y'all know last week against the Ravens, he had 2 interceptions and he had 1 interception return back for a touchdown. We know how big time Honey Badger is. But everyone else in their defense is terrible. They are terrible. So because their defense is so bad, offensively, they have no room for errors. And in this game, the Chiefs had 4 turnovers. Patrick Mahomes threw 2 interceptions, and they also had 2 fumbles in this game. 2 fumbles. They have to protect the football to win games because their defense can't get stops. The Chiefs defense can't get stops. So honestly, when I looked at this game and the outcome, it amazed me that the Chiefs actually only lost by 6. Like I couldn't believe that they had 4 turnovers and still had an opportunity to win this game. It shows you how high-powered their offense is because they still had 437 total yards in the game. They had 437 total yards in the game, but they had 4 turnovers. And the fact that they were in a position to still win this game was amazing. But when you look at this team overall, they can't afford to have multiple turnovers. They can't afford to have it. And so the Chargers, they scored 21 points off of 3 turnovers. That was the difference in the game. 21 points off 3 Chiefs turnovers. So that's where the Chiefs lost this game. turned the ball over 4 times, and defensively they could not stop Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers. They had no answers for the Chargers receiving corps. Mike Williams, he had 7 receptions for 122 receiving yards. You know, Keenan Allen, he had 8 receptions, 50 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. You know, Austin Eckler, the running back, he had 6 receptions, 52 receiving yards. So Justin Herbert was distributing the football very well amongst his receiving corps, you know, and the Chiefs defense couldn't get any stops. And also, I got to also call out Patrick Mahomes. I know in this game, Patrick Mahomes, he went 27 of 44, 260 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. But Patrick Mahomes is very careless with the football at times. He is very careless with the football at times. And this is why I don't believe Mahomes is better than Aaron Rodgers just yet. Because Aaron Rodgers protects the football. Last year, Aaron Rodgers only had 5 interceptions on the season. Only had 5 interceptions on the season. And I guarantee Aaron Rodgers won't have over 5 interceptions this season. I can guarantee it. It will not happen. Patrick Mahomes had 2 interceptions in 1 game. And then over the last 2 weeks, he's thrown 3 interceptions. 3 interceptions. He's very careless with the football at times. And sometimes when he's under pressure, he just throws the ball up and pray that Travis Kelce is somewhere in the vicinity so he can come down with the football and he can make a miraculous play. I mean, I watch Chiefs games and I see Patrick Mahomes get away with careless throws countless times. He wasn't able to get away with it Sunday in Kansas City against the Chargers. He wasn't able to get away with it. And that's the part of the reason why the Chiefs fell to 1-2 on the season. Mahomes, you have to protect the football better. You got to protect the football better. And also, for the Kansas City Chiefs, they're in a tough division. They're in a tough division right now. Right now, the Raiders, they're sitting at 3-0 on the season. The Denver Broncos, although they've played teams who aren't very good, Broncos 3-0 on the season, ladies and gentlemen. They're 3-0 on the season. But all 3 of the teams they have beaten, they are combined 0-9 on the season. They 0-9 on the season. So, I mean, the teams that they've beaten, they aren't very good. In the Broncos, but they 3-0. And in the Chargers, they 2-1. And they got a division win over the Chiefs right now. So right now, the Chiefs are 4th in the AFC West. Who saw that coming before the season? I know I didn't. I predicted the Chiefs would win the AFC West. But it's gonna be tough for the Chiefs the rest of the way. It really, really is. I mean, when you look at their schedule, they still got to play the Chargers one more time out in LA. Still got the Raiders twice. And y'all know last year the Raiders split with the Chiefs. And then the Broncos still got to play that tough defense twice. It's going to be tough. Still got Aaron Rodgers in week 9. You know, like, you know, they got some tough matches. They got some tough games the rest of the season. Titans, you know, week 7. Washington football team, they get their act together on the defensive side of the ball. And then the next 3 games, they got the Eagles. They'll beat the Eagles. Then they got the Bills. That's a potential loss. So we're going to see what this Chiefs team is made of. I know over the last 3 years, they've been the best team in the NFL. Been the best team in the NFL the last 3 years. But they trying to get back to the Super Bowl for a 3rd consecutive season. And their defense is one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And right now, offensively, they have way too many turnovers. Way too many turnovers. And when you have a terrible defense like they have, you can't turn the ball over 4 times and expect to win games. So we'll see what the Chiefs are made of. But let's transition back to the NFC. And let's talk about the LA Rams as the LA Rams beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 34-24 for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tom Brady went 41 of 55, threw for 432 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. For the Rams, Matthew Stafford went 27 of 38, threw for 343 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp had 9 receptions, 96 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. And so the question here is, are the Rams the best team in the NFL? I want to start off with the good about the LA Rams. SoFi Stadium was electric Sunday afternoon in LA. It was electric. And so you had all the stars out. All the stars was out. LeBron, was in attendance. Carmelo Anthony was in attendance. Dr. Dre, Magic, Chris Paul. The atmosphere at SoFi Stadium Sunday afternoon was amazing. It was amazing. And it was the first time in a very long time where we saw meaningful football in LA. It was the first time in a very, very long time. I'm trying to think back at the last time we saw the LA Rams, have, expectations with your legitimate Super Bowl contenders, where they have, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, in Matthew Stafford on their team. I mean, it's been a very, very long time since we saw the LA Rams, in a situation where, the NFL world was watching this game. And then they're in the new stadium in SoFi Stadium. This stadium is worth $7 billion. $7 billion. So, it was exciting to see football, being played at a very, very high level in LA. We haven't seen that for a very, very long time, especially in a stadium of that magnitude. I mean, this stadium is a big deal. SoFi Stadium is huge. That's home of the Super Bowl this season. I can't wait to go out there in LA and be able to see SoFi Stadium. I know it's a great attraction spot for any tourist in LA. So that was exciting to see in this matchup. But when you ask the question about whether or not the Rams are the best team in the NFL, the Rams are playing great football right now. They're playing great football right now. And Sunday was a very impressive win for the Rams against the defending Super Bowl champs. Matthew Stafford played great. He started off the game a little shaky. He missed some throws early in the game. He had to get the jitters, off. And once he got the jitters off, the Rams offense played at a very, very high level. They had 6 straight possessions where they had 6 straight scores. They had 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals. So once they got into a rhythm offensively, the Rams played outstanding. And in this game, what did they have, overall for total yards? Total yards, the Rams had 407 total yards. Matthew Stafford had 343 passing yards. Rams ran 40 plays. They scored 4 touchdowns on those 40 plays, and they played absolutely sensational. And even Deshaun Jackson, he turned back the clock. We know Deshaun Jackson is 34 years of age, but in this game, Deshaun Jackson, he played great. What did he have? 3 receptions, 120 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. He was the deep threat that the Rams needed in this game to keep the Bucs defense honest. Because we know Deshaun Jackson, he can take the top off of a defense, similar to Henry Ruggs, like with the Las Vegas Raiders, similar to Tyreek Hill of the Kansas City Chiefs, and similar to Marquez Valdes-Scantling of the Green Bay Packers. That's Deshaun Jackson's role on this LA Rams team. So he turned back the clock in this game. Cooper Kupp, he had 9 receptions, 96 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. On the season, Cooper Kupp has 25 receptions, 367 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. So Cooper Kupp is playing at a very, very high level at the receiver position for the LA Rams. Okay? And Sean McVay, his energy was great. And you could see the LA Rams team feed off their head coach. I think Sean McVay is 35 years of age. So you saw him running around when Deshaun Jackson scored his touchdown. You saw Sean McVay sprint all the way down to the end zone and congratulate Deshaun Jackson. You saw, at the end of the first half when the Rams, I think they had stopped the Bucs and they held them to they missed a field goal. And you saw Sean McVay jumping around, running back to the locker room, The energy was great. It was great. And so I pretty much knew at the half that the Rams were going to win this game. They were going to win this game because of the energy in the stadium and because it was kind of just one of those situations where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it was the wrong place, wrong time. You could just kind of feel like they just weren't going to win this game. They just weren't going to win this game. And they didn't play bad this game. They didn't play bad. Tom Brady had 432 passing yards, went 41 to 55, 1 touchdown. And overall, I thought the Bucs played pretty good. I mean, they played pretty good. You know, third down efficiency went 6 of 13. Not great, but they actually had more yards than the Rams did in this game. But it was wrong place, wrong time for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this game. And so for the game, overall, the Rams, Sean McVay, he's 40-0 when he leads at the half. 40-0. That's very impressive. So you knew, you know, with the Rams being up 14-7 at the half, it was a good chance they were going to win this game. Good chance they were going to win this game. Although the Rams played great, and they're 3-0 in the season, and many people believe right now they're the best team in the NFL, you know, 10 of 15 on third down. So they they converted almost all their third downs. In this game, they only had one penalty. One penalty. They had 8.5 yards per play. 8.5 yards per pass play. All that being said, I still don't believe the Rams are the best team in the NFL. I still don't believe they're the best team in the NFL, and I'm going to explain why. Both teams being healthy, playing on a neutral field in a playoff game. I'm still picking the Bucs over the Rams. I trust Tom Brady more than I trust Matthew Stafford. I do. Like, when you look at Matthew Stafford, he played great in this game. I give him credit. Like I said, he played great in a very meaningful game for the first time in a very, very long time. But coming into this game, Matthew Stafford, he was 10-59 in his career against teams that went on to make the playoffs in the regular season. 10-59, that's an awful record against teams that go on to make the playoffs. And then y'all know, in the postseason, Matthew Stafford, he's 0-3 in the playoffs. This is with the Detroit Lions. I know they're one of the worst organizations in the NFL. But Matthew Stafford has had the luxury of playing with a Hall of Fame great in Megatron. Also had a very, very good receiver in Marvin Jones at one point in his career. But Matthew Stafford is 0-3 in the postseason. And in the postseason, he has 4 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, 908 passing yards, completing 63% of his passes. So he hasn't played very well in the playoffs. And like I said on last week's show, in the NFC North, the only consistent competition that Matthew Stafford has had to go up against was Aaron Rodgers. The Chicago Bears, they haven't had a quarterback since Jay Cutler, and Jay Cutler was inconsistent. The Minnesota Vikings, they're very inconsistent. So Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, they've been the only competition that Matthew Stafford has had to go up against. So I still got my questions about whether or not Matthew Stafford can lead a team to the Super Bowl and whether or not he can make key plays in pressure moments in playoff games. I trust Tom Brady in high leverage moments more than I trust Matthew Stafford. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, from a personnel standpoint, they have a better receiving core than the LA Rams. Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans, they're all better than Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Deshaun Jackson. Bucs receiving core is better. They're better. And so I know defensively, the Rams, they have 2 of the best defensive players in the NFL in Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. But I would make the argument that collectively, the Bucs still have a better defense. Now, I know right now the Bucs are struggling defensively. They're struggling defensively. Their secondary is struggling. But they got a lot of injuries right now in their secondary. Sean Murphy-Bunting, he went out in week 1 with an elbow injury, and they lost Jamel Dean to a knee injury in this game as well. So right now, the Bucs secondary, they have a lot of injuries. And then also in their front seven, Jason Pierre-Paul, he's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. He's not as good as he used to be when he's with the Giants, but he's still a pretty good pass rusher. He was out in this game, didn't play. But they still got Ndamukong Suh up front. You still got Vita Vea up front. So I think collectively, you can make an argument that the Bucs have a better defense than the LA Rams. Last year, the Bucs had 48 sacks as a team, 48 sacks. This year, that was tied for fourth in the NFL. They only got 3 sacks so far this season. But I expect them to get better defensively as the year goes along. And also, in the NFC, right now, in a playoff game, I'm still picking the Packers over the Rams. The Packers, they have been to back-to-back NFC Championship games. We know Aaron Rodgers is better than Matthew Stafford. That's a fact. He's better than Matthew Stafford. And if it's a playoff matchup in prime time, tell me who you rather have, Aaron Rodgers or Matthew Stafford. We know the answer to that question. Aaron Jones is better than any running back the LA Rams have. Now, y'all know before the season, they lost Cam Akers. They got Sony Michel now. And Sony Michel, he is a decent running back, but he's not Aaron Jones. So I give the Packers a slight edge at running back. And also, Devontae Adams is the best receiver on either team. He's better than Cooper Kupp. He's better than Deshaun Jackson. And he's better than Robert Woods. Devontae Adams is arguably the best receiver in pro football. Y'all saw it on display Sunday night in San Francisco against the 49ers. Caught 2 great passes from Aaron Rodgers on the game-winning field goal drive by the Packers. So Devontae Adams is the best receiver when you compare the Packers and the Rams. He's the best receiver on either team. So in a playoff matchup, I'll still give the Packers a slight edge over the Rams. Call me crazy. But Packers are battle-tested, 26-6 over the last 2 years under Matt LaFleur in the regular season. So I still think the Packers will prevail over the Rams in a primetime playoff matchup for all the marbles. So we'll see what happens as this year goes along. But Rams are playing some very, very good football. Very, very good football. And one more thing I want to say before I move on and talk about the NBA best players. One more thing I want to say. Right now in the NFC, and I heard it all week last week, everyone was talking about how the matchup between the Bucs and the Rams was an NFC Championship preview. That's what everybody was saying. And so it was very, very, I would say, interesting, after the outcomes that took place in week 3, because everyone is saying it's going to be the Bucs and the Rams in the NFC Championship game. And everybody's completely forgetting about not only the Green Bay Packers, but they're forgetting about even the San Francisco 49ers. If Jimmy Garoppolo can play consistent at the quarterback position, or even if they insert Trey Lance and Trey Lance starts playing good football, the 49ers deserve to be in that conversation as one of the best teams in the NFC. Now, we're going to see the 49ers face off against the Rams twice this season because they're both in the NFC West. And then also, week 12, the Rams travel to Lambeau Field and take on Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. But I just think it's funny how everyone's talking about the Bucs and the Rams in the NFC and completely writing off the Packers and the 49ers. The Packers and the 49ers are flying under the radar right now. They really, really are. Everyone's talking about the Rams and the Bucs. So I'm interested to see how this plays out the rest of the regular season. And once we get to the playoffs, y'all all know playoff football is different. It's definitely different. Let's transition to some NBA, and let's talk about the NBA's best players. ESPN, they recently came out with a list of their best players. They had their top 10 players in the NFL right now. And so I'm going to read y'all the list once I find the list. Okay, so we got coming in at number 10, James Harden. Number 9, Anthony Davis. Number 8, Damian Lillard. Number 7, Joel Embiid. Number 6, Nikola Jokic. Number 5, Steph Curry. Number 4, Luka Doncic. Number 3, LeBron James. Number 2, Giannis. And number 1, Kevin Durant. That is the top 10 players in the NBA according to ESPN.com. And so, do I have any issues with this list? First and foremost, I want to say that Kevin Durant is the best player in the NBA. He's still the best player in the NBA. Last year, Kevin Durant averaged 27 points per game on 54% shooting from the floor, and the brother shot 45% from three-point range. 45% from three-point range. He was absolutely sensational. He was great. And so there are people out here right now that's talking about Giannis should be ranked over Kevin Durant. That's what people are saying right now. They're saying that Giannis doesn't deserve, they're saying that Kevin Durant deserves to be ranked below the Greek Freak. And I'm going to give Giannis a lot of credit because Giannis played great last year in the NBA Finals. Last year in the NBA Finals, Giannis averaged 35 points per game, 13 rebounds per game, 6 assists per game. And y'all remember in Game 6 of the NBA Finals against the Phoenix Suns, Giannis had 50 points. I think he had like 15 rebounds. And he also shot a very, very high percentage from the free throw line, something we didn't expect to see. So Giannis was very impressive last year, in the NBA playoffs and in the NBA Finals. But for those of you who think Giannis is better than Kevin Durant, first and foremost, Giannis himself admitted Kevin Durant is the best player in the world. This came after Kevin Durant dropped 49 points, 17 rebounds, 10 assists in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Giannis himself told us that Kevin Durant is the best player in the world. And then in the semifinals, when the Milwaukee Bucks faced off against the Brooklyn Nets, although the Milwaukee Bucks outlasted the Nets in a tough 7-game series where it went to overtime, Kevin Durant outperformed Giannis in that series. Now, Giannis' team outperformed Kevin Durant. So Giannis' Bucks outperformed KD's Nets. But Kevin Durant is still better than Giannis. Kevin Durant, his career playoff average is 30 points per game compared to Giannis, 26 points per game. Okay. Kevin Durant, regular season scoring average, 27 points per game compared to 21 points per game for Giannis. Giannis wasn't even a top 5 scorer in the postseason. Meanwhile, Kevin Durant was second in total scoring in the postseason. Kevin Durant had more steals per game than Giannis. Kevin Durant had more three-pointers made than Giannis. We all know that Kevin Durant is a significantly better perimeter shooter than Giannis. He's also a significantly better free throw shooter than Giannis. Kevin Durant also had more blocks per game than Giannis. We're talking about Giannis, one of the best defensive players in the NBA. I think Giannis has 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards on his resume. I know he's a 2-time NBA MVP, but most people believe that Giannis is a better defender than Kevin Durant. But Kevin Durant had more blocks per game in the postseason than Giannis. Okay? And then when they matched up against each other in the Eastern Conference semifinals, this is Kevin Durant and Giannis. Kevin Durant averaged 35 points per game. Giannis averaged 31 points per game. Giannis out-rebounded Kevin Durant, but only by two. KD averaged more assists than Giannis did in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Now, Giannis shot a higher field goal percentage, but that's only because he doesn't shoot from the perimeter like Kevin Durant. So all of Giannis's shots is, close to the basket. Giannis isn't shooting mid-range shots. He's not shooting perimeter shots. Giannis, all of his shots is down in the paint. Okay? It's down in the paint. Kevin Durant shot a better percentage from three and shot better from the free throw line than Giannis did in the playoff matchup this year. So, also, Kevin Durant has 14 career playoff games of 40 points, and that's second only to one other player in NBA history. Okay? Kevin Durant has the second most 30-point playoff games in NBA playoff history. The second most 30-point playoff games. Kevin Durant is third all-time on the scores list in the playoffs. You add all of that together, Kevin Durant is still the best player on the planet. Still the best player on the planet. And I don't even believe that Giannis deserves to be ranked above LeBron James. Now, I know everyone's going to say, LeBron had an early playoff exit. Anthony Davis was compromised with injuries. He was compromised with injuries. And had Kawhi Leonard not got injured, I believe that the Clippers would have made the finals, and I would have picked the Clippers to beat the Bucks in the NBA Finals. I would have. So I would even say that Kawhi Leonard is still ranked above Giannis. Right now, I got Giannis at fourth. I got Kevin Durant at 1, LeBron James at 2, and Kawhi Leonard at 3, and Giannis at 4. This is all players being healthy. All players being healthy. And also, I want to say this about Kevin Durant and Giannis when you compare the two players. Had Kyrie Irving never got injured, no one would have picked the Bucks to beat the Nets in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Did y'all forget at one point in the Bucks-Nets series, in Game 2, the Nets were beating the Bucks by 50. They were beating them by 50 points in the semifinals. So had Kyrie Irving never got injured, the Milwaukee Bucks would have never beaten the Brooklyn Nets. It would not have happened. And then I know James Harden returned back to the lineup in Game 5, but James Harden was compromised. James Harden was a shell of himself. So it was pretty much 1-on-5. 1-on-5. Kevin Durant was playing by himself against Giannis, Chris Middleton, one of the best closers in the NBA, and Jrue Holiday, one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. And Kevin Durant took that Milwaukee Bucks team 7 games, and it took Giannis overtime to beat Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is still the undisputed best player on the planet. So let's stop trying to pretend like Giannis is better than Kevin Durant. I know everyone wants to be prisoners of the moment, and everyone wants to say that Giannis is the best player in the NBA because he just won Finals MVP and won his first NBA championship. But he's not better than Kevin Durant. But also, other issues that I had with this list, Luka should be ranked above Steph Curry. He should not be ranked above Steph Curry. Like, Steph Curry is a 2-time NBA MVP, 3-time NBA champion, the greatest shooter in NBA history. Luka has not accomplished anywhere near the amount of success that Steph Curry has had. Anywhere, not even close. And he hasn't even been out of the first round so far in his career. Luka hasn't been out of the first round. So how in the hell should he be ranked above Steph Curry? That made no sense to me. And also, I don't think Damian Lillard should be ranked at 8th. I think Damian Lillard should be ranked above Joel Embiid. That's just me. Damian Lillard is the most clutch player we have in the NBA. When you talk about best closers in the NBA, Kevin Durant deserves to be on that list. Chris Middleton deserves to be on that list. But Damian Lillard is at the top of that list. Damian Lillard is big time. Y'all saw what happened in the first round, although it was against the Denver Nuggets without Jamal Murray. But y'all saw what happened in Game 5 when the Blazers went up against the Joker and the Nuggets. Damian Lillard balled out in that game, sent the game to overtime and double overtime with 2 big-time shots at the buzzer for the Blazers. So I thought Damian Lillard got kind of like the raw end of the deal as well, being ranked 8th. But those are my takeaways from this top 10 list right now that ESPN has out. Kevin Durant is still the best player in the NBA. That's one thing that they got right. But also, Luka Doncic should not be ranked above Steph Curry, and Damian Lillard should be ranked higher than 8th. Today was the Lakers Media Day as well. Yeah, I know the NBA had Media Day yesterday. All of the other 29 teams had Media Day, but the Lakers had Media Day today. So that's what got me thinking about talking about some NBA and what's going on right now, you know, with these rankings as far as best players in the league. Let's transition back to some NFL. Let's talk about the Chicago Bears. As the Chicago Bears, they lost to the Cleveland Browns 26-6 Sunday afternoon in Cleveland. And for the Bears, Justin Fields, this was his first career start. It was bad. 6 of 20, 68 passing yards, 12 rushing yards on the afternoon. For the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield had 246 passing yards. And so Justin Fields, I think he got a hand injury in this game. He got sacked 9 times. Matt Nagy, when discussing the quarterback competition right now in Chicago, this was Matt Nagy. He said, quote, "They're all 3 under consideration right now. We'll just have to see the next couple of days on who's going to get the start when the Chicago Bears take on the Detroit Lions at Soldier Field Sunday afternoon." So the question here is Matt Nagy the biggest problem right now in Chicago? Because we could talk about the offensive line being bad. We could talk about the defense being very inconsistent. I mean, I know they got Khalil Mack and I know they got Raekwon Smith, but they've been very inconsistent. We could talk about the issues that they have at quarterback because they don't really even know who their quarterback is right now. They don't know if it's going to be Andy Dalton one week. They don't know if it's going to be Justin Fields one week. Sometimes they even brought up the idea of starting Nick Foles. All of those things are true. But right now, we look at the Chicago Bears, and the biggest issue on their team probably is their head coach, Matt Nagy. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Nagy should be ashamed to show his face in the city of Chicago this week. The game plan that he put together for Justin Fields in his first career start was terrible. It was terrible. Justin Fields threw 20 times in this game. 13 of those attempts, the Chicago Bears, they went with 5-man protection with no help for the offensive line. No help. They have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. And you're going up against Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. And you think that your 5 offensive linemen can contain Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney, 2 of the best pass rushers in the NFL? Myles Garrett arguably is the best defensive player in the NFL, right up there with Aaron Donald. And you didn't even have the necessary protection in place for Justin Fields? Like, what kind of game plan did Matt Nagy put together with his coaching staff last week when they were preparing for this matchup against the Browns. What kind of game plan was this? I mean, when you look at this game, the Bears, they had 47 total yards of offense. That's the fewest by any team since the 2004 Cleveland Browns. Justin Fields, his QBR in this game was 4.5. He had, 5.8. 5.8. That was his QBR, 5.8. And that was his two worst QBRs this season. Because in week 2, he had a 4.5 QBR. Justin Fields completed 30% of his passes. That was the worst by a quarterback in his first start since 1981. Since 1981, he completed 30% of his passes. And I know everyone's going to say Justin Fields didn't play well, but Matt Nagy did not have the proper game plan in place for his rookie quarterback to be successful. It's been 149 days since the Chicago Bears moved up in the draft to select Justin Fields. They moved up in the draft to select Justin Fields. So you had 149 days to put together a game plan for your rookie quarterback, and that's what you put on the field, Matt Nagy? That's what you put on the field? And so over the last few years, most people said the reason why the Chicago Bears haven't been successful is because of Mitchell Trubisky. That may be true, but two things can be true. And another thing that could be true about the Chicago Bears team and why they haven't been successful is because of Matt Nagy being their head coach. This was a terrible game plan that he had in place for Justin Fields. Watching the game, it almost had you thinking, did he set Justin Fields up for failure? Because we know he had a lot of pressure on him to insert Justin Fields into the starting lineup as the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Most of the media and most people in Chicago who are Bears fans, they wanted Justin Fields to start the season, including myself. They wanted him to start the season as the quarterback, but he wanted to roll with Andy Dalton. It makes you wonder, did Matt Nagy put together this bad game plan just so Justin Fields could struggle in his first career start? It makes you wonder. It really makes you wonder as to just to say, hey, I put the kid in, I gave everyone what they wanted, and he didn't perform well. He didn't perform well. But man, they were completely awful in this game. Justin Fields was pressured on 60% of his passes, 60% of his dropbacks. Unbelievable. It was unbelievable. 60% of his dropbacks, he was pressured. That's the highest percentage in the NFL since ESPN began tracking in 2009. 60% of his dropbacks. I mean, it was an awful game plan by Matt Nagy and the Chicago Bears coaching staff. It was terrible. It was terrible. And so I know Justin Fields didn't play very well, but I only place so much blame on the shoulders of Justin Fields. I only can place so much blame on him. He's a rookie quarterback. And I pray that the Chicago Bears organization don't sabotage Justin Fields' career. I pray they don't, because I think he has tremendous upside. And he's going to be one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the NFL once he learns how to be a quarterback in the NFL. Once he learns how to go through his progressions, once he learns how to protect the football, I think Justin Fields has an opportunity to be one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. And I just hope and pray the Chicago Bears organization doesn't sabotage Fields' career. And I hope they don't allow Matt Nagy and general manager Ryan Pace to sabotage Justin Fields' career. Because right now, the way it's looking, Justin Fields has no chance to be successful in the NFL as a quarterback. He has no chance. He has no chance. And we've seen the Bears completely mess up young quarterbacks. We've seen it happen before. They haven't been able to develop a quarterback since Jay Cutler. And even when Jay Cutler was a quarterback of the Browns, he was inconsistent. So we got to see what's going to happen moving forward. They got the Lions this week. Matt Nagy, he doesn't really seem like he knows who's going to start. He don't even know who's going to start. Is it going to be Andy Dalton again? Or are you going to bring in Nick Foles? Like, who's going to start for the Bears Sunday afternoon at Soldier Field against the Detroit Lions? They should be able to beat the Detroit Lions. They should be able to. But the game plan they had in place going up against the Cleveland Browns, and they have an elite pass rush with Myles Garrett, with Jadeveon Clowney up front, it was a recipe for disaster for Justin Fields. And that's exactly what took place in this game. That's exactly what took place. 68 passing yards? Are you kidding me? 68 passing yards. And then they only ran the football 10 times with David Montgomery. 10 carries for David Montgomery? You got a rookie quarterback in Justin Fields. I would expect you to hand the ball off more than 10 times with your good running back in David Montgomery. Shout out to David Montgomery. He's from the Cincinnati area, went to Mount Healthy High School, but I would expect him to run the football and have more rushing attempts than just 10. That's awful. But they're going to get Justin Fields killed out there if they don't improve on their game plan. Matt Nagy, man, he should have his game check revoked for his performance as head coach of the Chicago Bears. Seriously, it was that bad. Everybody remember going to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H, also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. I'll be back on Friday giving y'all my Wise picks for NFL Week 4. And so, like I said again earlier in the show, man, I was so happy for my Packers getting that win over the 49ers in Santa Clara. Go, Pack, go. Everyone doubted the Packers getting the win, and they prevailed over the 49ers. Aaron Rodgers led the Packers on a game-winning field goal. They won 30-28. I predicted the Packers would win 30-27, so my prediction was being very, very close to being spot on, but very, very big win for the Packers. So I had to make sure I let y'all know that and rub it in for those 49er fans before I sign off tonight. Everyone have a great night. Go and follow the Worldwide Sports Network on all social media platforms as well.